circle, centers for Cousins, a shot, and he scores. Dylan Cousins makes it 3-0 Lethbridge here.
Lyram gonna take it coast to coast on a backhand, scores!
To the blue line, Vandalese, that effort, tip, scores! Carson Folk is Mr. Teddy Bear!
He scores! It's over! It's over! Game 7, overtime, hero!
Hi, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the WHL podcast. I'm Zach Cotter, the manager of player development for the Western Hockey League, and your host for this week's episode. We got a pretty good show for you. We've got 3 of our top prospects for this year's upcoming NHL entry draft, whenever that might be. But before all that, it is time for the news and notes. The Western Hockey League has announced that it has been granted approval by public health officials from the government of Saskatchewan to play a hub center located in Regina. This hub in Regina will allow the WHL Saskatchewan and Manitoba-based teams in the East Division to open their season on Friday, March 12th. The WHL has agreed that all East Division games during the 2021 regular season will be played exclusively at the Brandt Center in Regina under an improved WHL hub center model. The East Division schedule will commence, as I said, on Friday, March 12th, and the East Division teams will play a 24-game regular season schedule, and practices will be taking place at the Cooperator Center, which is located adjacent to the Brandt Center. The WHL has completed its first week of its first phase of return to play with no positive test results for COVID-19 among the 245 tests that were administered in the Central Division. Using private PCR testing provided by Dynalife, testing was administered twice to all members of the team delegations of players and staff from February 6th through February 12th, 2021. The WHL will continue to provide regular updates on COVID-19 testing results. The WHL will not be providing information on the identity of any individuals. Speaking of that Central Division, the Western Hockey League has announced the first 2 weeks of the Central Division schedule of games for the 2021 regular season. It all gets going on Friday, February 26th, with the Medicine Hat Tigers and the Red Deer Rebels facing off at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, followed by the Lethbridge Hurricanes at the Edmonton Oil Kings. That game starts at 7 p.m. Mountain. The Saskatoon Blades have acquired Blake Stevenson from the Tri-City Americans in exchange for a conditional 5th-round pick in the 2023 WHL draft. The 20-year-old product of Calgary, Alberta, Stevenson was originally selected by the Americans in the 4th round, 68th overall of the 2016 WHL draft, and he made his WHL debut in 2017, skating 5 games with the Americans. The 6-foot, 181-pound forward has skated in 88 career WHL contests, tallying 34 points. And lastly this week, some SPA news from around the Western Hockey League. The Spokane Chiefs have signed 2004-born goaltender Manny Pangley to a WHL standard player agreement. Pangley spent last year at the Okanagan Hockey Academy, posting a 131 goals against and 940 save percentage. And the Swift Current Broncos have signed 2005-born goaltender Joey Rocca to a WHL standard player agreement. Rocca, a 109th overall selection in the 2020 WHL draft. That is it for the news and notes this week. For everything WHL, head to Twitter at the WHL. Up first on the podcast this week is Nolan Allan. Allan comes from a hockey family. He's already got a brother in the Western Hockey League, and he might have one more on the way. It was a great conversation with him as he prepares to get his season started with the Prince Albert Raiders. Today I'm joined by Prince Albert Raiders defenseman, one of the 5 Western Hockey League clubs I played for. I had a pretty large suitcase. I actually got one each year, the amount of teams I played on, but this guy probably won't be getting moved. The Raiders love him a lot. He is a guy that could be a high pick in next year's NHL entry draft whenever that happens. He's a native of Davidson, Saskatchewan. He has an older brother that plays in the Western Hockey League and a younger brother that potentially could be joining the league soon. It is Nolan Allan. Nolan, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Obviously, interesting start to this season. And I say start. What's funny is it's already February. We're halfway through almost, but we still haven't played a regular season game of WHL hockey. But you have played 5 games of junior hockey this season with the L'Orange Ice Wolves of the SJHL. You actually had a point a game, 5 goals. 5 games, 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. What was that experience like, and how much fun was it to get back into a team environment?
It was pretty fun to get playing hockey again when the Western League was shut down. But it's a different league, so it was pretty interesting, and I had fun.
Well, I mean, talking about it's a different league. You grew up in Saskatchewan. I'm sure you've been aware of the league for a long time. You have two brothers, Blake, who plays in the Western Hockey League, and then your younger brother, Evan. What was it like to have the summer, this extended period with all three of you together, working out, practicing? How many fights did you guys have, and who's the toughest out of the three of you?
I don't know. It's pretty close. Me and Blake are pretty even, but yeah, it was interesting. There was definitely a couple fights.
Well, looking back on last season, it was your first year in the Western Hockey League. Obviously, as a 16-year-old defenseman, it's a tough adjustment to make coming from what was then called Midget AAA, now U18 AAA, to the Western Hockey League. You had a very, very good group of defensemen on that team that you got to learn from, guys like Caden Gooley, Zach Hayes. What was it like to come in, and how did those guys help you in your first year in the WHL?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough coming into the league as a 16-year-old defenseman, but those guys were great. I mean, Hayes is a great guy. He's a great leader. And Gooley went through the same thing the year before, so he was great to help me along the way with.
When you look ahead, you talked about Gooley. He was a draft pick to the Montreal Canadiens in the first round of this year's NHL entry draft. As you look ahead to the NHL draft, I know it's in the back of your mind, but what are some of the things that you think you need to do or work on this year to get on the scouts' radar, to get on draft boards?
Yeah, I just need to bring my whole game to a whole new level next year. I mean, need to work on my quickness and getting up the ice quicker and just moving the puck quick, making a play as soon as I see it.
Well, we got a good play here. It's actually your first ever Western Hockey League goal. It's against the Moose Jaw Warriors, as I said before, wearing the practice jerseys in this game. But just take us through this goal here and just anything you remember from the play or even that game.
Yeah, I just remember getting the puck at the point and going across, doing our D switch, and seeing the lane by the D-man there and got it through.
Yeah, it was a great shot last season, 2 goals and 6 assists for 8 points. If you could describe the type of player that you are, the type of player that you want to be, what would that player look like?
I think a player that can play on both ends of the ice, defend well, and chip in offense when needed.
When you look back to last season, what do you think is, let me give you a little bit more context. When you get into the Western Hockey League, there are so many more details to the game. There's so much more preparation. You know, every single team's breakout, their power play, penalty kill, breakouts, what they're going to do at every single face-off. You know everything. But what was the biggest thing that you learned this past season that you're going to take from last year to help you this year?
I think just moving the puck quick and see it as soon as you're seeing a guy, you're making that pass to him, making a good first pass, playing with urgency.
Playing with urgency. You know what? Urgency is a great thing to talk about. Is that something that Mark Habscheid talks about with your game, is urgency?
Yeah, I mean, just playing with urgent, moving it as soon as you can and trying to get away from those midget habits.
As you know, Habscheid, obviously a very successful coach in the Western Hockey League, a hard coach to play for, but a guy who's developed a lot of guys to move them on to the NHL. That is obviously something that you want to do. As you take a step this year, you're going to have a leadership role with the younger players on your team. What do you think you need to do to be a good leader for those 16-year-olds that are coming onto your team this year?
Just help them through it the exact same way Hayes and Gooley were for me there. I mean, it's going to be a big step from them guys coming up from midget or wherever they played junior the year before into the Western League. So help them through it. My
last question for you here, Nolan. Again, we've had so much time off. Has there been a hobby, a skill, or anything that you've started during the quarantine, during the pandemic that has helped you get through it?
I don't know. I guess just a lot of Netflix and video games. Pretty much it.
What's the go-to video game?
Like NHL or UFC. I don't know, the sports games, I guess.
Well, the boys are going to be playing lots of video games this year, I am sure, with the condensed season, the unique schedule that we have. And I wish you the best of luck as you get ready to get back up to Prince Albert and get this season started.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to Nolan Allan for taking time out of his day. Obviously, his brother Blake played for the Calgary Hitmen during the 2019-2020 campaign, and his youngest brother Evan is eligible for this year's WHL draft. Up next, we have Ontario-born, an Arizona raised, but he ended up in the Western Hockey League with the Regina Pats. It is past defenseman Jake Johnson. Today, I'm joined by Regina Pat's defenseman, he wears number 28. It was the same number I wore my first year in the Western Hockey League with the Vancouver Giants, and he had the exact same point totals that I had last season as well. 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points in his inaugural campaign. I'll tell you this, though, he played a lot more and he plays a lot better than I did when I was in the Western Hockey League. It is Jake Johnson. Jake, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. You're back in Regina. You're in quarantine. So, what have you been doing since you got back to the Queen City?
Not a whole lot. A couple workouts, some video games with my buddies back home, a couple hot tubs out in the backyard. That's about it.
Well, let's look back on last season for yourself. It was your first time with the Regina Pats. Like I said earlier, 2 goals, 6 assists, and 8 points in 58 games. When you got to the Pats in their training camp last season, what were your expectations heading into the year?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what to expect as a 16-year-old in this league. You're not really sure what's going to happen, but I thought camp went well. It's definitely an adjustment with speed and stuff. And then John Paddock pulled me aside and told me I made the team. And first preseason game was much faster than I'm used to playing, but over time get used to it, I guess.
Yeah, preseason's fast, and then regular season's even faster, and then the playoffs is somehow another notch above that. It's part of that development system that you went through. And when you look at yourself, when you got into the regular season, what area of the game did you need to adjust the way you play to play in the Western Hockey League as an everyday player?
Yeah, just making quicker decisions. Like in midget, you can get away with like slow decisions kind of thing, but in the Western League, everything happens so fast. So you got to be quick with your feet, quick with the puck.
When you're looking at the way that you need to continue to develop over the next couple of seasons as you try to get to the NHL, you got the NHL draft coming up for yourself. Well, we don't know when it's going to be, but whenever it's scheduled, and obviously you're preparing for that. When you look at yourself, what do you think you need to do this year to get on the radar of some NHL teams?
Yeah, I mean, just show I can play 200 feet game, strong in the D zone, strong offensively. Make some more plays offensively, I think would be a big one for me. And just, show I'm a good stay-at-home defenseman, physical, block shots, and also show my offensive side of the game.
How do you think you develop that offensive side of your game, and what are some of the things you need to do to make that happen?
Yeah, I think the big thing is just confidence. Like last year as a 16-year-old, kind of gripping the stick a little tight and scared to make mistakes. But after Christmas last year, I think I really gained some confidence in myself and knew I could play in the Western League. So just keeping that going towards the season.
Well, let's take a look at one of your first goals ever in the Western Hockey League, actually last season against the Brandon Wheat Kings. I'll pull it up here and then just kind of break it down. Let me know what was going through your mind, what you saw, and we'll play it through here.
Yeah, Logan won the face-off back and then take a quick step to the middle, out of lane to the net, put it on net, and sure enough, it happened to go in for the first goal. It's pretty exciting.
Well, there's a bunch of guys in front of the net there. Did you see that you had a lane to the net on that short side blocker up high, or was it just you trying to get the puck?
Yeah, I think it was Craner actually came in there and took out a couple of guys, went down, so I created a lane for me to the net and picked my head up and put it on net.
Oh, and the best thing about that too is I kept counting. I was like, boy, why isn't anybody coming out to you? But a forward falls. It gives you all the time in the world and you get to walk in and score. When you look back at that play, is that something where you now in reflection are like, oh, I identified that I had a lot of time. I took my time. I picked my spot and then I shot the puck.
Yeah, no, I was saying earlier, speed's a big thing in this league, but there's lots of times out there where you have more time than you think. So just being aware of that and being able to make plays is very big.
Well, as we look forward to this season, obviously you're back in Regina for the start of it. You actually got to play in 14 games with the Omaha Lancers of the USHL. What was that experience like? And how weird was it to play without fans for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, for our home games up there, we were at 50% capacity. So that was pretty good. But some of the away games were no fans. But yeah, no, it was a good experience. It was good to get on the ice, play some games, and have a head start on some of the guys when camp comes along here in Regina.
Well, speaking of that camp, you'll get to be with Connor Bedard, who has obviously been granted the exceptional player status. For yourself as a player who's just come through the Western Hockey League for your first season, what advice or, what do you think the expectations are going to be on him, and what are you going to do to help acclimate him with the Regina Pats organization?
Yeah, I mean, just be there for him. It's obviously a lot of pressure for him. He's 15 years old coming into this league, and he's obviously a great player. He's granted exceptional status, but yeah, just helping him if he's got questions. And, he's 15, he's going to make mistakes, and not be down on him, and give him some help and some advice, help him after practice, and just some little things like that.
And give him a rough ride too, give him that little extra stuff on the boards, let him know how it's going to be. My last question for you here, I kind of want to get to know what the guys been doing with this off time. So is there a hobby that you've started? Is there a movie series, a book, or what have you done to pass the time during the COVID-19 kind of lockdown quarantine?
Yeah, I mean, when the season got canceled, went back home to Arizona, so all the golf courses were open, so a lot of golf for me this summer and spring, I guess. So yeah, that was my hobby during quarantine.
What's the handicap at?
I just go out there with my buddies.
I love it. Well, Jake, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I wish you the best of luck as training camp gets going here and you get into the regular season swing of things. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.
Last up on this week's episode, well, I guess I should start by saying thank you to Jake Johnson for taking time out of his day, although he does have a lot of it considering he's in quarantine right now. Back to our last guest. His mom is actually a volunteer at WHL Cup, a very, very good family, and this is a great kid as well, is Craig Armstrong from the Prince George Cougars. Today I'm joined by the 9th overall selection of the 2018 WHL draft. He's currently a member of the Prince George Cougars. He's heading into his second year in the Western Hockey League. It is Craig Armstrong. Craig, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Like we just talked about earlier, it is cold as all heck outside right now. You're up in PG. You're getting ready for the start of the season. But what have you been doing over these past 6 months, essentially, to get ready for the start of the season?
Well, back when Alberta wasn't originally shut down, I was training at Crash Conditioning, and then I was skating probably every day. And then when the shutdown happened, I kind of just had a home gym and worked out there for a while, and then just skated on the outdoor rink for the rest of the time being.
Back up in Prince George now, getting ready for the start of the season. Looking back on last year, 62 games, 1 goal, 7 assists for 8 points. When you get to the Western Hockey League, it's a big adjustment to make coming from what's now called U18 AAA, or when we played midget. And as a forward too, there's a lot of things you need to understand. What was the biggest adjustment that you had to make to become an everyday player?
I just think finding consistency in my game. There were some games where I thought I played good and I thought I would be gaining more confidence. And then there would be a string of games where I would maybe not play my best. And that just led to the confidence thing. And so I just think finding consistency in my game is probably what the biggest difference was.
How do you think you find consistency in your game? What are the things that you do to try to get back on track when you do fall off?
Just keeping the game simple. I think just using my speed and getting towards the net, and just focus on the simple things. What will help me stay confident.
You've got 2 very accomplished coaches on your club up in Prince George, Jason Smith and Mark Lamb. What's it been like to have those 2 guys with all that NHL experience behind the bench?
It's been an amazing experience being behind those guys. They know what it takes to get to the next level. They've been pushing us hard. I can't really think of any better coaches I would want to have behind the bench.
Well, they're the ones that are going to be accelerating your development as you continue along here. Let's look at one of your goals from last season. It's your first ever goal in the Western Hockey League. Came against the Moose Jaw Warriors in Moose Jaw. We'll play through it here. Let me know what you remember from this play.
Yeah, so Krivo Krasov, I think he passed it up to Moberg, and then he kind of just shot it. And I was trying to battle net and maybe get a tip, but then it went off, I think, Eastman in the back, and then it just bounced right there. And then I guess I spun off the defender and just shot it in.
Hey, those are the type of goals you need in the Western Hockey League and all hockey. I mean, they're greasy goals, especially for a smaller player like yourself to be able to get to those areas. I played with a guy currently on the Montreal Canadiens by the name of Brendan Gallagher, who scored a lot of goals from in there, and he's having a pretty good career in the NHL. But you're wearing a bubble in that video. What happened?
Yeah, so a couple of games before, I got in a fight and I kind of got like a black eye and kind of broke my nose. So the trainer just said, we want to keep you safe. So I just put on the bubble. Yeah, not many people on my team were in favor of that though. So
it's a good look. You know what? It's a unique look. You're the only one out there with it. But as you get ready for the start of this season, obviously a big step for you as you get prepared for the NHL entry draft, whenever that might be. It might not even be this year, but what are the things that you need to do to get onto draft boards and to make an impression with NHL clubs?
I think just getting off to a quick start. Last year I had a tough time getting used to the league, but if I get off to a quick start and find confidence and consistency in my game, I think that will be huge.
Yeah, consistency is something you've been talking about a lot. I think it's it's a good thing for yourself to be able to find that, because there are those ups and those downs. You're still in high school. You've got a lot of responsibilities as a player in the Western Hockey League, and we have such a unique season that is going to be coming up here. But we've had, again, like we talked about, 10 months since really in March when the whole world shut down. Has there been any hobbies, new skills that you've started to help you pass the time through this pandemic?
Yeah, I played baseball for the first time in like 2 years. I think I played a lot when I was a kid, but then started taking hockey more seriously. So baseball is something that I like. I enjoy it a lot, and I played it for a while. So yeah.
Thank you to Craig Armstrong of the Prince George Cougars for taking time out of his day to sit down with me. I hope that you are healthy, you stay safe as we get ready for the start of the season, and that you're able to take off and have that consistency we talked about today.
Thank you for having me.
That is it for this week's episode of the WHL podcast. My name is Zach Hodder, and you can follow me on Twitter at Zach Hodder. You can follow the Western Hockey League, and I think you should, because we're coming back. Hockey is coming back. Western Hockey League hockey at the end of February. You can follow us on Twitter at the WHL. And for all the scores, schedules, and stats, you can head to WHL.ca. We'll be dropping another episode again next week. I hope that you have a great upcoming 7 days, and I'll talk to you soon.